We are quite crazy. Yep. Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to our Executive Council meeting of April 25th. There are no regrets. Everybody is here tonight. Number 2 on the agenda, always an invitation to stand and move. If anybody feels the need to get up at any time, feel free to do so. Number 3 on the agenda, adoption of minutes. Did I miss? Sorry, number 3 is approval of the agenda. Anybody have any additions to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, the agenda will stand approved as presented. Conflict of interest declaration. Does anybody have a conflict of interest to declare? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on, but if you have one at any time, you may declare it. Number 4, adoption of minutes, April 11th, 2024, our 144th annual council meeting minutes. I assume you've all had a chance to read them. Any issues with the minutes? Okay, seeing none, they are approved as presented. Next, we have number 5, staff reports. 5A, department head report. There are 2 attachments. We have active projects and completed projects. So we've had these reports before. Are there any questions on any of these reports? Seeing none, we will go to the next, the clerk's report. There is also an attachment. This is Scott Surratt's report. This is the one that has a lot of orange and a little bit of white, which is good to see. Any questions for Scott? Councillor Surratt?
It might be for Chantal, really. It says Warden Gordon Boudreau, and I don't disrespect the guy. Could be our warden, but maybe on page 16. And that's on the windmill. On the windmill, that's all. I just saw that. It's not a big thing. Yeah.
So what's funny is those got passed in the minutes. No. So anyways, I fixed them in the minutes. They just did not get fixed in the clerk's report. I will be sure to fix that. Apologies, Gordon.
I finally read it.
Good call.
Other than that, any other questions or comments on that? Okay, we will move to 5C, building permit report. We see this on a monthly basis. Questions or comments on that one? Okay, seeing none, we will continue. So number 6, we have 7-day notice, Article P14, vacation policy. So there are some language changes and updates in that policy. So this is our 7-day notice. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Number 7, grant approvals. So we have 2 items under grant approvals tonight. We have grants to organization approvals, and then we have the extraordinary grants that we will tackle next. But first, we have an attachment for grants to organization approvals. So we've worked on this together. You guys, we've discussed it. What is the wish of council? Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. I'd make a motion that we go through with these grants that we've worked on, grant approvals.
Okay. Do we have seconded by Councillor Bourque? CAO Muse?
Just for the clerk and for council to be sure of the motion is to pass as presented. So as presented, the total amount for grants to organizations under the regular grants is $50,000, and the community hall grants for $30,000 for a total of $80,000. That number matches last year's contributions. It's just in a different order, just in different pockets. So it's the same amount. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, so that when you're voting on the motion, that's what you're voting on.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, motion has been made and we have a seconder. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have extraordinary grants, 2024-25 Rotary Rib Fest. Were you
I can give
Okay.
just a quick, there's no There's no attachment because you've seen this last year. It's exactly the same as the year before that. It is the grant that both you and Claire share for Acadian Day for Ribfest. The proceeds to this event go to the Rotary, which is a nonprofit organization that is a benevolent organization giving. And I think this year they are proposing contributions to the Congrès Mondial Acadien 2024 event. So, they're putting their commitment back into the community the way that they had said they were doing in the past. The application is no different than last year. It is considered an extraordinary grant because it's a one-time event. So it doesn't fit in the same criteria. And they may have a tendency to come outside of your deadlines, which is where you have some discretion as to whether or not you want to consider these. Oftentimes, they're not right on the 15th of April because of the nature of what they are. This one came in on time, and I don't think there's anything else I'd say unless you have any questions.
Counselor Doctorow?
Do we have dates for the Ribfest? Is it already scheduled, I take it?
No, yeah.
I'm on that. I'm looking at that right now.
Okay, as CAO Muse looks for the dates of Ribfest, what does council wish to do for this grant request? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Boudreau. Any other questions or comments on that? When is it?
Sorry, 5th to 7th, July.
July 5th to 7th. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried.
This is July 5th to 7th.
Are you sure? Can you check that again? Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Okay, number 8, other considerations previously approved by council. So we have the VON for 4,500, and last year we approved 2,500. We have ground search and rescue for 6,500 per year for 3 years. This is a renewal. And then we have Yarmouth County Trail Development Association for $7,050, and that was what was approved last year. So if we start with the VON, what is the wish of council on that one? Councillor Surratt?
I so move, I'll have a question after, but I'll so move that.
Okay. Okay, moved and seconded. Your question?
If I could have the
Yes.
question, so 2,500 last year, is there any extraordinary circumstances that they're asking for that much more, or is it just a request?
None that were obvious from the application. I think VON is like every other organization. The costs are increasing. The 2,500 was not only approved last year, it's been approved many, many years for many, many years. So you've never actually increased the contribution towards this organization. So your motion is going to increase that contribution, but it hasn't changed since I've been here, I think.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, so they do have other funds. We're like only a part of that, but if you're willing to support the increased amount, I think a lot of it is just the fact that it's for 2024.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Councillor Digdon?
Not so much a question as a statement, just being involved in healthcare and dealing with a lot of different families and different circumstances. The workload for VON is definitely increasing as well. And I know they're doing a great job all over the municipality in that, and I know that for a fact, that their workload is definitely increasing.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have ground search and rescue, 6,500 per year, 3 years. Councillor Donaldson?
Yes, is that 3 years up already? We're doing another 3 years?
3 years are already up.
And is it the same amount?
So on this one, we did not receive an official application from Ground Search and Rescue, probably because we told them they didn't have to, because probably 3 years ago, if you remember, you as a council wanted to put the line item in and make it like fire, right? Like, so fire has its funding and it has its line item, so you wanted to do that. I think it would be appropriate if you're willing to do the same or a different number to do it for multi-years, only because, you know, having to do it over and over, year and year, we know what they do. We've seen the value, so the number is the same, and there hasn't been a request for anything additional, so I wouldn't recommend any other amount. You can choose 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. You can choose 1 year. You can. It's entirely the amount and the length is up to you. I would just say that a little bit longer makes it easier on having to make the decision over and over.
I know I've had informal conversations with a member from GSAR, and they're feeling the crunch as well, and I guess didn't realize that the renewal was coming up, but wondered if there was wiggle room to increase that amount. That was an informal conversation. It wasn't anything, you know. Councillor D'Entremont.
My question was answered, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Boudreau.
I was just wondering, where do they stand? Like, are they in good shape, or are they still in the,
They're in better shape.
yeah, yeah,
But, yeah, they're in better shape, but they can always, they're always looking for funding,
For
right?
funding, yeah,
Because a lot
yeah.
of it is through fundraising themselves, and they do get some grants, but they completely appreciate the fact that we've put it as a line item for
Good.
them. They really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I have had an informal conversation about increasing.
awesome, great, thank you.
Sure. Councillor
Thank you. I will,
Sonia, yes.
I will make the motion to give them the same amount for 5 years.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have the Yarmouth County Trail Development Association, so $7,050. What is the wish of council on that one? Councillor Bork.
I'll make the motion that we give the same amount, $7,050.
Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments on that one? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Number 9, for decision and discussion, 9A, transfer from operating reserve to operating fund. There is an attachment that came, CAO Muse.
Very quickly, this is a late ad, only because we were doing some work and got distracted with it. And so every year at this time of year, we take a hard look at our cash flow, and we know that May is usually the crunch month for cash because the bills only come out at the end of May, and the bills don't stop being paid, right? So what we're asking for is to allow to authorize to borrow a very short-term amount, $600,000, non-interest bearing, from the operating reserve to the operating fund. We have the money in the reserve, that it's there for a reason, it's there for cash flow purposes, it's there for rainy days. We did this last year, we borrowed it for 2 or 3 months, and then we replenished it, and then we made sure that you knew that the money went in and out. So that's what we're asking for today, an approval for that loan so that the cash flow can be protected.
Okay. Okay, do we have a seconder? Seconded. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have 9B, capital budget. So there are several attachments there. CAO, would you like to?
Yeah. Many of you, thank you, Madam Chair, many of you would have seen this information more than once. We've gone through the capital projects. This will be the 3rd time that we go through it. Many of the documents that are attached online are for online viewing, and they will be, if they are approved the way that they are, they'll be going online, and the residents will be able to see what capital projects that you have for the next 12 months, how much money you're intending to spend, where the money is coming from, and a qualitative description of each of the projects. So the first attachment is the qualitative report. I'm not going to go through that line by line, but each and every project is described in a very high level. So, you know, you've heard East Pubnico a million times, but what is it exactly? So in the description, very brief, also how much we expect it to cost and how much we expect it to cost us and in what way. So If it's going to cost $1.5 million, the municipality is going to give $166,000. That's what it will show. So it won't show the other information. It'll only say this is the total and this is what you have to pay for in order to get this done. So in a lot of cases, and this is probably the third time I've said it, but maybe the first time on camera, is that you are investing a little over $1 million of your capital reserve this year. 800,000 of that you're generating in the year. So that's internal revenues. Some money is coming from operations. We are budgeting 350,000 coming in from operations because we have to put more money aside for these projects. That would be embedded in your operating, when you approve your operating budget, it's in there, okay? So the second amount is interest. We are in a high interest earning environment right now, so interest on our investments is expected to be high. We have transfers from capital tax sale reserves that are going to come in. They only come in after the 20 years are done, and about $17,000 will be coming into the reserve, so that's your money. So combining those things, there's about $800,000 that will be coming in. So really, in terms of old money, you're only looking at about $200,000 investment of old money to get about $5.1 million in projects completed. So that's just an incredible number. There's a lot of projects here. They're not all going to go as planned. That's just the nature of the beast. So some of these will be delayed. Some of them will not come in the way that we expected. So I just want to describe that. Your most attractive or high-profile projects continue to be the track and field improvements in Tuscot, thanks in part to the town and municipality who contributed each an amount towards this project, and especially to the province of Nova Scotia who made the project possible with a big investment. So that will be finished in about a month's time. So the bills will come flying through very quickly. There are some other projects around Mariner Center expansion. We're not expecting to pay out any cash this year. Yes, there will be expenses, but there still should be enough. We are expecting that there ought to be enough money in already either collected or from GICB once we get through a little bit of a hurdle there. Once those monies come into play as well, we expect that those two will be enough to pay for the project until March 31 of next year. So the next 12 months, we don't expect any cash flow from the municipality. But after that, we do. We haven't budgeted that yet. We're not there yet. But I just want to let you know, it does not include any cash outflow towards the expansion project. Other highlights of the capital budget, I really, the East Pumlico tank repair is another very large one, maybe not as popular as a track and field, but absolutely necessary to support business and the community. Like, don't forget, the East Pumlico Tower is also used to bring water to our fire hydrants in East Pumlico. So it's not just business, it's fire protection. Once that project's completed, we're going to be very, very, very happy and pleased, I hope, that we now have an infrastructure that we don't have to worry about putting in big dollars for years to come. So that's like the last bit of the major upgrade there. Around other projects, I think those are two of the larger ones. There is the J.E. Hatfield Road Sewer Extension Project of $800,000. We expect some of that to be paid for. We expect most of that to be paid for by somebody else. About $300,000, not much more than that, would come out of our coffers, but that's an investment. Once the road is put in place, we will be developing between 15 and 17 lots in that area. We already have interested people looking to buy. The purchase of those, the sale of those lots you will then recover the investment, the municipal investment. So this is one of the four areas that we wanted to tackle housing. This was one of the four, so that's a big one. In terms of, I'd say those are the larger ones. A lot of the other ones are very small. I will mention that there is a $120,000 investment that we don't intend on paying much on. That has to do with pathway projects. Those are, some might call it sidewalks, some might call it active transportation. We're calling them pathways today. And that money will be for a study. So that will be order of magnitude. What does it look like to potentially construct or consider constructing a pathway in Plymouth and Tuscan. Those are the two locations that the active transportation plan identified as higher priority. So we're looking at those two now. We're very nervous about the prospects of that because we know that that with accessibility and other costs, what we're accustomed to seeing in terms of construction on sidewalks or pathways is entirely different now than it was even 2 years ago. My rule of thumb was always $1,000 per meter, if you might have remembered that, right? I don't know if you could triple that and still not be wrong. Like it's a tough number. Yeah. So it's $1 million a kilometer about 5 years ago. But 5 years ago was 5 years ago. And the way to construct these things is now changing. So they have to be larger. They have to be more cognizant of like biking and other because of the accessibility legislation. So when you build new, you have to consider, wheelchair access and other access. So now you can't just have a little path, you have to double or even triple it. And you see in a lot of towns a very large, what looks like almost a road. It's become quite large. So we'll see what happens. We'll start with the study and see what happens. So again, we are repaying debt as well. We still have outstanding debt because we just borrowed 2 years ago. We borrowed about $3 million for this, and we're paying about $280,000 to $290,000 a year on that. Remember, the loan had a grant associated with it as well. $450,000 of the amount was given to us, and we've received that in full because of the net zero component. So we had to borrow in order to get the grant. We had to borrow. So we did that, and that was still a good move because the interest that we're making in our capital reserve account with the money still in the bank is better than the cost of borrowing. So inflation does funny things. So that's actually some positive things going on in that situation. So I would say I've summarized really 4 or 5 projects. I don't want to go into too much detail. Like I said, your investment will be approximately $1 million of your own dollars to accomplish this list. I'll stop there. You've seen the list. There's some other documents here that show the projects by the capital project, the capital budget by project. So you will see each project, where the money comes from, and that ties into your budget. Last thing attached there is gas tax projections. Your gas tax is going to be 0 at the end of March of next year. It will be very close to 0 if we spend it the way that we plan to spend it. There are some major investments over the next year, just like there was last year. So we don't expect the gas tax to replenish for another couple of years. Some of the reason why the gas tax was being absorbed is because it was paying some of the debt from the FCM loan because a portion of the cost was gas tax eligible. So because we did this, it not only did we get the grant, we also got the ability to get federal gas tax allocated to this project. So using that money instead of our own, essentially. So I'll stop there. If there are any questions or comments about any specific project, you may choose to look at this some more. You may choose to approve the budget today, and it's entirely up to you as council.
Councillor Saulnier.
Thank you, Deputy Ward. For those who have no online capabilities, is there going to be paper copies for this?
There will be paper copies available to anyone who wishes it. So I think that if people request it, we'll get it to them. We're very open to put documents out at like post offices and some other places where people can pick things up. Let me think on how we would do that for the budget. It might be that we have a high-level summary of both budgets that we would put out to paper. But by all means, if somebody wanted a paper copy of this, we would totally provide it to them, either directly or through yourself.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Donaldson?
Oh, I should know this, but I don't. The gas tax, how is it calculated? Does it go by the price of gas, or is it set, is a certain amount per year?
Excellent question. It is doled out by the federal government to the province, so that's step one. The agreement is between the province and the federal, so whatever agreement that they approve, it's their agreement. So we're like the beneficiary of it. So we get, I don't know how many millions of dollars each year that come to the province. They don't fluctuate with the price of fuel. Usually the contracts are negotiated for a 4 to 6 year time period. And so they will build in maybe some indexing or some increases. They may, and so that in the next agreement, which is due, by the way, that's going to come up, the gas tax agreement, which is on your agenda in terms of information. Right now, we are not with a contract. We're waiting. The new contract may have different things that we must do. It may increase the amount. It may not. It may increase the amount that goes to Nova Scotia and decrease the amount you get because of the way that it's being calculated. Right now, we get about $365,000 a year. And we've had 2 years where they've doubled it, just like we're going to double it. So that was more of a political decision than it was a contract one. So in those years, we got like almost, it was a good amount of money, a little lower than 800,000. So that's a long answer. So the carbon tax has zero impact that I can tell. And I'm fully expecting this new agreement to have things around housing, like prerequisite things. Every contract, there's an expectation that the municipalities do something for the money. Last time it was asset management. The time before that, you had to do climate change adaptation. There were things that you had to do. So there's going to be something. There's a carrot and at the end, and you have to work for it.
Okay, thank you. So looking at all of this and listening to our CAO's presentation, how do we feel about the budget? Are we at a point, Councillor Surratt?
I'd like to make a move that we accept the budget as presented.
I'm a seconder. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Just on that.
Yes.
I got carried away.
Uh-oh.
So, no, everything's good. It's all good. There was a bit of information that I prepared for you and then ignored it. And this may have been occurring in your mind and certainly is something that we do as staff for you, but it's the projected cash flow. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to invest this much money. Well, where's the money coming from? How much money do we have and how much money will be left? When a year goes by, if you spend exactly the same amount, what's going to happen? So the quick answer is you're going to start, your bank balance at the end of March was at 5.6 million for the reserves. This is not gas tax, it's just reserves. There's accounts receivables and payables that have to be received and paid. And you have internal revenues coming in and expected cash out. The anticipated year-end balance of your bank account is 5.756 million. So it's actually better than what you started with, though we're still waiting on money. So it's a little like we're waiting on money now. So it looks like it's an increase, but we're actually, it's not because we're still waiting on some money. So 5.6 versus 5.7, and your debt will be at 2.166. So for me, as an accountant, I look at this and say 5.7, that's the money that I have. What's the money that I owe? If I hadn't have borrowed, I should have had this much money, which is the difference between the two. So you're looking at about 3.6 million net assets that are in your capital reserve. So just, if it was bothering you, I know you have confidence, but if it was bothering you, I wanted just to go over that piece so that you know that the cash is available.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was just, Madam Chair, just something I forgot. I think Councillor Boudreau was bothering me, and I'd be...
I'm being picked on tonight.
No, I have a conflict of interest when it comes to the levy. and I forgot to declare that. Sorry
okay.
about that.
No problem.
I was just joking, Councillor.
Sounds good. 9C, shift youth services. We didn't vote? Sorry.
Oh, I thought you did.
I thought we did too.
Sorry. I should have
Oh.
Because the question came, you asked for questions and it was.
Oh, okay, sorry. Any other questions on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. He tries to keep me in line and then he throws me under the bus. All right, 9C, shift youth services, letter of support request. That is Warden Muse.
This is coming from, it's through Shift, but they're applying for, there's money out there to help people that are, the houseless people, people who have, are on the street or if they need anything. And there's a program out there that could cover, it could cover up to a couple $100,000 in all, depending, because they have to hire someone. It's a big program. And it's through Choice. Now, Choice Housing is a committee that I'm on. Been on since 2012. And what it is they couldn't apply for the grant themselves, or the money themselves. They went through Shift. And Shift is an organization. On Choice Housing, we have different organizations that are included. There's Women's Center, there's Shift, there's different youth groups and whatever. So this would be handled through Shift, but it would cover every organization. Okay, so what they're asking of us is a letter of support for this ask. So I was at a meeting last Wednesday, and this has to be in, the application has to be in by May the 3rd. So it gave us a chance here to bring it here. So what I'm asking council is to approve a letter of support so that they can at least apply. Doesn't mean they're going to get the money, but the more support they get from different organizations, the better it is for them. So I would, if I may, I can make that motion because I'm not in the chair. I would make a motion that we send a letter of support to Shift to apply for this grant.
And seconded? Councillor Surratt?
Just to keep it official, was there,
Yes,
I missed it. Was there a letter
yes,
sent?
there was, and I'm surprised I didn't see it
Yeah,
here, but because
it would be good to have a
I had
request.
sent the request, and there is a formal request, and I was looking at my email. I saw it wasn't here. I was looking for my email before it came on, and I can't seem to put my hand on it. But there is an official request from Hanoch here, which is part of the group, for this, explaining exactly what it is they're going to be doing.
Could we get a copy of that letter? I mean, I have no problem, but could we get just so
We
it's-
can find it.
to be sure?
I think, because I sent the request to the office, so they have a copy.
Great, it'd be
And
nice
maybe
to
they can-
have, just to say, hey, it's not only from our warden or from somebody else. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so we have, it's been moved, seconded. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9D, we have Western Wren LOC request. So I saw that this was a letter that was signed by the chair, Councillor Surratt, and basically they're looking at reconfiguring the composition of the committee. That's what they're looking for. Other than that, did you have anything you wanted to add?
If I may,
Sure.
If I may, just to, what was happening was the LOC are the ones that usually have the nominating committee, they put people on the board. what was happening is, as people were dropping off after, so let's say, your 3-year term, what was happening is they were losing maybe these people with this certain skill, or that person with certain skills. We were just replacing with somebody, somebody that maybe didn't have those skills, but be good for the board. So they're saying they know who they need. So if they can change the configuration of that committee, then they'll be able to have a little more impact. We still have to approve it as the LOC, so it's not much of a change there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder on that? Seconded by Counselor D'Entremont. Any other questions or comments?
Go ahead, vote. Do
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Did you have something to say, Scott?
Yeah, if I may, Chair. Just in regards to the comments that Councillor Surratt made, we often hear around this table talk about the LOC or the MPS or the LUB, and people that are listening out there may not know what the LUB, the MPS, or the LOC means. We know because we work in it day to day, but maybe we should just make an effort to kind of say what the LUB means or the MPS or the LOC, just for folks that are listening, that's all.
Good point. Okay. Next, we are number 9E, Article C21, reimbursement of claims. There is an attachment. I believe that it was, 8.4, 8.4 was, I think, especially the one that kind of stood out. So what is the wish of council for this one? Councillor Surratt?
Just a question, I guess, and did the CAO say when we went over this, I think our CAO sent a message. One of my concern was for reasonable expenses, and if there's alcohol there, that's reasonable expenses, and as a rule, this is not something that we have alcohol on receipts and that. But I don't know if we have a motion here that says that, but I believe the CAO said that, I believe now, that the MGA says we cannot have alcohol. And did I understand that right? I think you sent us a message, or you might have been here.
That is absolutely the case. So the MGA says there's no longer alcohol to be purchased using municipal dollars unless there are exceptions. You have a hospitality policy that you passed. It's been long enough.
Yeah.
It's been a while. That will confirm that. So reasonable meal expense cannot include alcohol. It is not, the only time you can purchase alcohol is for, like, let's say a dignitary was coming from France and you're having a wine and cheese, that was like a public event. You can, in those cases with permission, you can do it, but you cannot, nobody can go to lunch and get a beer and have the municipality pay for it. Just not happening. So the changes to this section said reasonable meal expenses incurred for business purposes, that's new. So it has to be a business-related meeting. It can't just be somebody just hanging out. Because the meal expenses are public knowledge, they have to be disclosed. We felt that this went far enough, but that's up to you, council. If you feel like it's gone far enough, you can make the motion to approve. You can have us take a look at 8.4 again, maybe go a little deeper if you wish. But that's the reasoning behind the change there.
Also move that.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bork. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have 9F, Marketing Levy Public Engagement Update. Scott, did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I just want to acknowledge we have folks here from YASDA. We have Neil McKenzie, Executive Director, and we have some board members here that some are from Yarmouth and some are in Argyle, and they're here kind of in support of the marketing levy. So I just wanted to acknowledge them, and I may ask the Executive Director to say a few words, or if there's questions that are directly towards YASDA that I may not be able to answer, I may ask Neil to help me out here. I just wanted to we need to bring back up the marketing levy to discuss and just kind of bring you a brief history. We did the first reading back in January. We had the information session back on March 7th. At that information session, we had invited over 40 operators. Those operators were all those that were registered with the province. So we sent them an invitation. And we did get about 8 or 10 to attend, and then we got some more written submission with some concerns. And then even after that, I spoke to like 3 other operators with their concerns. So, and many of you were at that session, and I thank you guys to be there. At least you could hear it firsthand yourself. And it's not just coming from the deputy CAO sharing the information, so I was pleased to see. So some of the main concerns that was identified at the information session was the implementation date. We had kind of tentatively said April 1st would be the date that we do it. So the concerns were around operationalizing that. What would we do with pre-booking, with contract bookings, all those things? We can address those once we've identified, if council chooses to go ahead with the marketing levy and identify a date, it would only be those bookings that would happen after the fact. So those that would be already on the books would not have the marketing levy applied to their cost. Another point was the monthly remittance. It was concerned, I heard from a number of operators around doing it every month, that it was a burden on some of them, certainly the smaller ones that would need to remit every month. This is something we talked about as a staff also, that maybe it is a lot for our staff to handle too, because we're going to continue receiving payments here every month. So can we look at doing it quarterly or twice a year? I think that's something that we can do, so we can address that one. Intent to use, what was our intent to use the levy funds? And I think that was a big concern. And I didn't have a whole lot of details other to share that the bylaw and the act basically forces us to collect the money and then give it as a grant to an association to promote tourism in our area, and that very high level. We know that the town and Modi does have a levy bylaw, and they do share that with YASDA. And then you guys know what YASDA does. They take that money, they do exactly like we just do for capital project. They leverage that money. They go out there and partner with other organizations, whether it's Bay Ferries, whether it's the province, to do some marketing campaign, to promote this area as a destination area. That's what they do. So the plan's there. If we're gonna want to go into more details, then again, let's if council wants more details, let's talk about it, and we'll bring Neil to the table to have a more in-depth discussion around that. The auditor section, we need to tighten up that language. We heard it from a number of operators that we just can't tap. The municipality can just not go and tap on your door and say, can I see your books? Like, there needs to be more language around. There needs to be a reason why we go tap on somebody's door and say, hey, can I see your books? Like, there needs to be better language there, and that was, I heard it from a couple of operators. So those are the major points. There's other concerns that we heard, was like the 3%, is that the appropriate charge? Well, that's what the act permits us to do. That's as much as we can charge, is 3%, and that's what the town is doing, that's what Modi's doing. So for consistency, I think it would be wise to stay at 3%. Enforcement of unregistered operators, we heard it a number of times. That's more of a provincial issue than a municipal issue. If people are operating unregistered, they're actually against the law. Like, the act says that they need to register with the province. So it's more their issue. Just kind of looking again. They're talking about definition. We can definitely fix those definitions in our bylaw, and we can use the definitions that are provided by the province. We can do that. Considering the levy only to apply to multi-units, but really, if you look at the act, it basically states to treat everybody fairly, that if you're an operator with one unit, you should be charged the levy, the same as everybody else. And whether the levy could be used for infrastructure, the act actually does say that it needs to be used for tourism promotion, so we can't go down that road. So some of the concerns that we heard, we can address. Another concern was, I would say, kind of outside the bylaw, was the disconnect between our operators in Argyle and with Yazda. And we heard from a number of operators, it was a hot topic that night. Again, if we want to go into more details around Yazda and the concerns, we can get Neil at the table and have some more discussions for council. The other two concerns that I would just want to share before I close up here is that operators, before we go to the second reading, operators would like to see the amended bylaw and have again, another opportunity for feedback, and I think that's fair from council's perspective. But again, that's your call, but that's what we heard. And the last point is, there was discussion around forming a committee to look at the bylaw, to help with some language around maybe the auditor piece or the ribbons piece. We could also look at what date would be the implementation date. This group could look at the implementation, what's the best for them. So this committee could be formed from council, could be operators in there, Yasta could be part of it. So there was some discussion, and I think there was some appetite from the folks around the table around that. So those are from the highlights of the meeting. And I guess from my standpoint, it's like, so I've given you some recommendation, doesn't mean that that's gold. You guys can change whatever recommendation you guys want. But I think we just need to kind of look at what are the next steps, and I guess I'm looking for council to give you some guidance on the next steps.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Donchemo?
I just wanted to, talk about, the levy in Yazda. Yazda is a DMO, Destination Marketing Organization. The job of Yazda is to promote the area. It was, to me, it was kind of unfortunate that the disconnect between the owners that were here and, the disconnect between them and Yazda, because, when Yazda's out there promoting the area, well, people are coming and they're staying in, they don't know where the lines are. They're not staying, they don't know if it's Argyle, Yarmouth, town of Yarmouth, you know what I mean? People are coming, they're staying in the area, taking in the, it could be the tuna tournament. It could be, whatever other event that Yazda is also involved in promoting. For example, this past weekend, I was in Halifax at Saltscape. Yazda had a booth at Saltscape. I actually, me and my wife Deanna, we actually were in the booth for a little bit between some of the workers going in and out, and we're actually talking to people about the area. We had one lady that came and she was talking about, I had a friend that had come down and she said they went to a place where in the wilderness where the dining, the cuisine was incredible. I can't remember the name. And we said, well, that would probably be Trout Point Lodge, for example, in the Municipality of Argyle. And that's what it was, right? Oh yeah, Trout Point. So those people from Halifax, for example, are coming to the area because of a place like Trout Point. They're coming to, and this is what Yazda's job is, to promote them. So, but Neil, you could probably chime in here at any time. Well, I'm trying. And I kind of felt at the meeting we had, there were a lot of things that came up, and I couldn't, or me and Jonathan were here, and we couldn't say, well, no, that's not true, because we weren't 100% sure. And, there was a lot of stuff that was said that, once we found out were, way out in left field, and which is unfortunate, because that's the disconnect, that we have to kind of connect them back together and, do a better job. Yazda, municipality, everybody, so. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Saunier.
Thank you. It's funny, you kind of highlighted disconnect, and Scott, you brought that up, one of your last comments. I was here at that meeting we had, and out of all the issues that came about, the disconnect was the most concerning for me. I said, what's going on? And you can't, if it needs to be fixed, that connection needs to be fixed. I'm not blaming anybody, I don't know why there's a disconnect, but that was the most troubling issue I saw here. They were saying, these guys don't do enough for us and we do it all ourselves. I don't know why that exists, according, listening to your explanation, but I think efforts should be made to, if not reconnect, to connect. And I don't think you can go very far without connecting. It's that simple for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Warden Muse?
I think most of the ones that were saying that, although there was one that surprised me when they said that they didn't see what Yasta was doing for them, because I've seen a lot of that business in the, in the stuff that Yasta is putting out there. But I found there was a lot of these smaller places, and I don't know if the expectations of these people was to make sure that every area, every little business was going to be listed into the publications of Yasta, which I don't think that's, I can't see how you could do that for sure. The thing is to bring them here, but these businesses are listed somewheres. They're either online or whatever. People will come down if you look for accommodations. I'm sure that these places are advertising somewheres. So I was a little put out there by saying, I think the people that were mostly complaining were the smaller businesses, that they felt that their actual place was never mentioned in the Yasta publications. That's the way I took it anyway. So, but I don't know if that's possible or not. I mean, you guys would know what you can publish and what you can do. So, thank you.
Counselor Digdon.
Thank you very much. I honestly feel as though we heard enough of these, even if there were some of your smaller operators saying it. Maybe there's a communications breakdown between them and Yasta as to what can be done for them and or what is being done for them. So maybe more communications, better communications would work better for them. I don't know. The only thing, I'd be willing to make the motion, and I added a little bit to it. Council approves the creation of an ad hoc committee to review the bylaw and address concerns identified in the info session regarding the bylaw and the disconnect with Yasta, and bring back recommendations back to council.
Okay. Somebody willing to second that motion?
Second.
Any other questions or comments on that motion? Counselor Saunier.
So, to that motion, who would you find as board members for this? Would it be council?
There was I know that it says could consist of councillors, Argyle operators, Yasta general manager, possibly others to review. So is your question who chooses who's on this committee? Is that what you're?
A little of both.
Yeah.
Who chooses and who? Like, I'm not in the business of marketing.
Right.
But I'm a counselor. So
Right,
just, yeah.
right. So Scott, can you answer that? You're still.
Oh, I'm still
you're good.
on, yep.
Yep.
It's a good question, Councillor Saunier. I would see councillors that have interest. Obviously, I look at Councillor Dautremo, who's the chair of Yasta and has some knowledge around that, and there may be others around the table that may want to be part of it. we already know that at the session, there was a couple of operators interested in being part of that group. So we would have some folks that would be prepared to join that group, and I'm sure YASDA could be part of that group also.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Counselor D'Entremont?
Could you read the motion again? I guess I'm just going through the suggested one, but you added what, just so I'm clear on it?
Yeah, no problem. The suggested motion was council approves the creation of an ad hoc committee to review the bylaw and address concerns identified in the info session regarding the bylaw and the disconnect with YASDA, and make recommendations back to council, is what I added.
All right.
Because the only thing at the end of the day is council that's going to have to approve and, pass or not pass what's going to be over there as far as the levy.
Great.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay. Okay, thank you. Next, we have 9G, AMFAA Advisory Committee, and that is Counselor Surratt. So we need him, unless Gordon, did he whisper in your ear? When? Yeah, she's gone to get him. Okay. Yes. He declared his conflict. You're up, Counselor Surratt, AMFAA Advisory Committee.
Okay, AMFFA is the Argyle Municipal Firefighters Association. That's what it is, so there's the acronym. Scott, thank you for putting that up, yeah. So anyhow, we had the meeting last Thursday. Yeah, it was last Thursday, and what it is the fire chiefs decided that they'd like to have an advisory committee to meet with council if things did come up that would necessitate to have all of the council along with our CAO and deputy CAO. If there was something that came up, and then maybe have quarterly meetings or twice a year type of thing. And they thought it would be a good move. And also they said, we're trying to be proactive to, just in case what Jamie Coots, or the gentleman who did the review, might come up with something like that anyhow, where to get closer connections between council and the fire departments. So they said, we're being proactive, and I guess that's the gist of it. And they would like to know if it's okay, if council agrees, it's okay with them. And this, I don't think we need a motion, but they want me to bring this to you, to all of you, to say, this is what they're planning to do. And
So they want to formulate a committee with
Yeah.
firefighters and counselors, or all of council?
no, all of council.
Okay.
They've already formed that committee.
Yep.
They've already formed it at the last meeting. So what they want to do is just have quarterly meetings with council and bring up different discussions they may have pertaining to the fire. So I guess a closer connection, I think that's been missing. I know they were speaking at the last meeting about when our CAO was there, and they seem to have a better connection than with me. And as I'm the rep, but I know why. Alan knows all the ins and outs about the budgets. I'm not overly with that. I just bring back, messages if they have some or whatever. So they felt it was very productive when Alan was there. So they said, when we had the meeting with all the fire chiefs and the member of council were sitting in the back, they thought it was a very good meeting. They enjoyed having that connection. So I don't think we need to send, that we need to make a motion. I don't believe they made that committee themselves yet. I don't know what the CAO or our deputy CAO thinks about that, if there's anything else they should do, but they want me to bring it up here.
Sure.
And to be sure you know.
CAO Muse.
Well, because it's something that you're looking to do together, so first of all, the fire review that was done by Jamie Coots, he is going to recommend a closer association with council, a more direct relationship, and I think that is a very positive thing, especially if the recommendations are asking you to spend a lot of money. You need to be standing side by side in going through that. So absolutely very important. You could, I think it would be a step in the positive direction to approve, this is a recommendation, to approve a letter inviting them to join you, all of council, on a regular basis that they could decide. So basically an invitation, like invite them and say, look, you tell us what will work for you. We will create a subcommittee of council, which will be all of council and whomever, however many people that they wish. But I'd rather not say, send us 9 people if they want to send us 12.
Yes.
So just like a formal invitation to create this committee and maybe invite a working session to put out the terms of reference or whatever it looks like.
Very good.
Then they'll see, like they did the first move.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I think
absolutely.
a letter saying, yep, this is good, let's get this going, maybe give ourselves a deadline as to when we were going to create it or something to that nature.
Yep. I can certainly make that motion. Now, if Chantal and her associate can come up with some kind of a wording, like an invitation to, a letter of invitation that we are accepting, I guess, the advisory committee that they've created, and for us to meet with them at their convenience.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Digdon. Questions? Warden Muse.
So what they did then, they formed a committee among themselves.
Yes.
So how many people are in that committee?
It's each fire chief,
Just the fire chief?
just the fire chief. that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I
Very
was
good.
wondering, how many
Great-
people
good question.
were going to be on
Good
that
question,
committee?
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Saunier?
I just have a comment or two. I was here at one of the meeting we had with the firemen here, and we were sitting in the back. And I found it very informative for myself. I had a few questions that I didn't know the answer to, and they gave me to, so I think it's going to educate council as much as we can educate them, or more so, educate us. And to their needs and wants and all that stuff. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Agree. Any other questions or comments? Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have the Village Letter of Support Request. Councillor D'Entremont.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So this is a letter coming from the village for a letter of support for, I'm just trying to translate here while I'm reading. So they want to build a church on site, and I think we did get this letter last year also. Kind of, okay. So if you guys, for those of you that don't remember or haven't heard the story, after it was from Payamores, some of the monies from his estate or whatever that was donated to the village for construction of a church, so or a replica, I should say, of a church. So they want a letter of support to be sent to Patrimoine Canada, so that they can, get grants or funds for building their church, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we're lucky that we have Rollo Deo, the manager of the village, who tonight is wearing 2 hats.
Tell him to go to the mic.
You can come right up to the mic, yeah. Since you're here.
Deal, well.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, the letter before was to ACOA, but since then we've gone to community spaces through Patrimoine Canada. I guess ACOA is Patrimoine Canada too. But anyway, the community spaces has a lot more money possibly to dole out. They haven't doled out a lot of money in the Maritimes compared to the rest of the country. And since we're minority, I think we've got a good hand, but we're still playing poker. And so anyway, this would be, for COA, we're just talking about a replica church. For this, because it's community spaces, it's a replica church / community space. So we're going to try to make a church that looks relatively old, well, or period, but still has all of the more so the modern stuff in order to become a community hall and for, and also for all the events that we have, a lot of times we don't have no space. So our overflow could go in the church. What we're going to do is the pews can unlock from the floor and move away and stuff like that. So anyway, that's more or less what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a letter of support.
A letter of support.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rilla.
Thanks.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded. Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Number 10, correspondence and for information. So 10A, letter of response about library funding. Any questions on that? Then we have Coastal Protection Act. There is an attachment. We have Councillor Sonia, go ahead.
Coastal protection. I'm always so unclear as to what they mean and what they want.
You're not alone.
So good. But, the word to me is misleading because you're not so much trying to protect the coast as they're trying to protect infrastructure on the coast at times.
Yeah.
And for that, that's just confusing for me. I don't know where they want to go. And they'll go further. They say they want to protect nature, but how do you do that with rising waters? And I guess, I don't know if we can ask, but I'd like to see a clearer picture as to actually what they have in mind. And just to say, we're going to try to, push infrastructure further away from the coast, that's not protecting the coast, it's just protecting the buildings. So I wish there was more clarity to this thing, that's all. Thank you.
We had an attachment from Yarmouth We Care Radiothon, a thank you. Then there was Yarmouth Cadets invitation, I believe, is that to you? Yeah,
It came to me, but it's an invitation for council.
okay.
And that's why I wanted to put it here, because I want to make sure that everybody saw that. And it's the cadets, Sea Cadets, Army Cadets, and Air Cadets. And it's happens on June the 1st at 2 o'clock at the Armories. And it's just a celebration. It's the annual review of the 92 RCSS, whatever, RCSCC. And it's all the cadets. And I think they have this, it's an annual. They do this every year. And we're invited. I just want to make sure that you saw that if anybody was interested. So I asked to put it on.
Thank you. Next, we have the letter that our warden were sending, that I had asked for at our last meeting regarding Duck Lake Bridge. Then there is a letter to the CAO regarding CCBF, which is the old gas tax, new name, which is what you had talked about earlier, how the agreements have to come up. Yep, go ahead. Councillor Surratt?
Yes, I'll go back to the Duck Lake Bridge. I took a ride there, just to let you guys know that I took a ride to have a see what it looked like. Oh, there's no way. There's no way a car could ever go through that. And anybody in the back of an ambulance, if they were sick, by the time they got out there at Gary Johnson, well, if they weren't dead, they'd be close to it because I've There's no way.
So you're
I
talking-
drove from Halifax.
The John
to-
Murray Road? Is
The
that
John
what you're-
Murray Road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I drove from Halifax to Digby in one of those ambulances, and it shook me up pretty bad, but I would never, did never survive that trip. And a fire truck, Chantal, you'll never make it. Believe me, you'll never make it. There's no way. But just to let you know, my God, they did cut the brush. It's quite wide, but man,
I know.
you need a four-wheel drive.
It's really not an alternate route.
Oh, not an alternate at all
No.
whatsoever. Yeah. You'd be dead when you got out of there.
What was that? Nope, the bridge opened up after about a week or so. Warden Muse.
Did I hear that they're not going to replace, they don't want to replace the bridge?
They don't want to
Does
replace
say?
it. Mhm.
Did someone, I heard somewhere that they were looking at putting a box culvert there.
I haven't heard
You
that.
haven't heard that?
No.
I heard that somewhere, and I don't know, I can't say exactly where, but that they would have to raise the road a little bit and put a box culvert.
Okay.
But that would be the ideal.
Mhm.
Then you wouldn't have the,
I haven't heard that, but
so I
that's-
just wondered if you had, because.
Nope, but it's good, at least, obviously, there's conversations happening, though, if
Yes,
things are
exactly.
starting to. Counselor D'Entremont?
So obviously, curiosity probably killed the cat, because I also went and had a look. But the day that I went, from the Belleville side, they were actually there, TIR were there working, they were hauling stuff from underneath the bridge. And my father told me a gazillion times that when people are working, don't get in their way, so I just turned around and went. So I wasn't able to get on the John Murray Road. I was hoping to, just to have a look myself, but I'll take your word for it, so, thank you.
We're hoping that this will, just even open some eyes, and I'm glad to hear that there are things being said, so. Number F, long day. Long day, long week. Letter F was about the CCBF, which is the gas tax, what we used to call the gas tax, and how there isn't a current agreement, and they're, looking into that right now. And the last three are attachments, they're letters just saying that our development agreements have been approved. Then, any questions on any of those pieces of correspondence? Okay. Number 11, financial requests. So we have three. The first one is from the Musée Acadien. Is there somebody who would like to, is there somebody that wants to take this on? Is there?
Yeah, I certainly can do that.
Okay.
This was a request that came both through Councillor Digdon and the Société Historique. A letter, actually multiple letters came all at once, and this particular request is essentially to maintain the funding at the current level. If you look at the letter, it says, where is it? Right there. So
Funding it, this right here?
yeah, I'm just trying to find it here. Did I go right by it? It does say the funding here, I thought, but maybe did I miss it?
Keep on.
By up, do you mean down? The original request for funding, which requests goes an increased rate of $3 to 18 plus 13 to better reflect. I'm not seeing the attachment
No.
there. So.
Counselor Digdon?
Yeah, I didn't see the attachment either, but I figured it out here. They're looking for an increase, we suggested an increase rate of $3, so they were getting 15 before, and so they want up to 18 plus $13, 13%, Merck fees, which is your mandatory employment-related cost, and that for a total of $20.34. And I based this on on 50 weeks out of the year, because usually there's 2 weeks vacation. That's the only reason I based it on that. So you're looking at 1,050 hours at $20.34 an hour would be a total of $21,357. I don't know what we had before. I believe it was somewhere around the 17,000, I believe.
I'm pulling up the exact amount at this time.
You know it, sir.
Counselor Surratt, I'm trying. It's finicky tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, I just, while they're looking for that, I'd just like to comment on the letter. I found this letter very interesting. Actually, to me, they've certainly used this funding very well and very appreciative of what we've done for them. And this person has certainly worked, according to the letter, has done a lot of work for them. And, you know, my God, I would at least be willing to vote for them to get it again, according to what is done with the CMA coming, CMA this summer, the Programme Mondial Acadien, Scott, trying to remember thank you for that. Remember that. And yes, to me, this letter, I'm very impressed. And I did talk a little bit to Councillor Digdon before the meeting, and it's been very, very well used. And certainly, I mean, it's the increase. I'm not sure what the rest of council, but I'd certainly be at least willing to support what we had before, if not more, whatever council decides. Thank you.
The
Go.
the amount, I finally found it. It just took me a little longer to look. 18,000. So that would have been the amount that was paid over the past 3 years, per year. 18 per year for 3 years. So if they were at 15 before, 18, I'm sure it'll come very close to Digdon's numbers.
I'm going to get Counselor Digdon. Go ahead.
Just wondering how many hours or how many weeks he's basing it on.
Slow for an accountant, huh?
I'm not saying a word.
I'm just
Good one.
I just went slower.
I know. His
Like,
fingers
the
slowed right down.
enthusiasm just like left my fingers. Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what? She is never gonna let that one go. So the rate increase is a 20% increase from what it was before. So if you take that into consideration, it's a 20% increase in total, which would be 21,600. That would be your adjusted amount. Now, that's just taking into account the Mercs may drive you a little higher there. So if council was interested in a full support of that position, it could probably do so for 22,000 is a reasonable number. That would be an all-in number. It should, I mean, that's a ridiculously generous situation, and you can decide how many years that might be. I think I did the math right, but I sent it to Marcia just to make sure.
I was just wondering, were you basing that on 52 weeks or 50 weeks?
I'm basing it, I didn't have the amount of weeks from what it was before to after, so I assumed the same amount of weeks when I made that assumption.
Okay.
I assumed the same amount of weeks that were paid for last year. I can do a different calculation, see if I come to a different result.
No, that's great. Pardon me? Yeah, 4%, yeah. But I just feel as though they are a organization that does a lot on Acadian genealogy. I know for a fact that both the museum with their genealogy and the genealogy department down here, they complement each other quite a few times over the years. I know we were at 18, this ask is around 22, and that sometimes we don't always give organizations what they're asking for, which we've done this year again as well. So I'd be willing to make a motion that we give them $20,000 for 3 years. It definitely helps them out, I feel as though, and it gives them some stability as to knowing that they can bank on that money for the next 3 years. And I,
Seconded. Counselor Surratt. I'm trying.
oh, sorry.
I always figured it was Danny, but I guess it's you.
It's
Always figured it was
this.
Danny.
It's the technology. We'll blame the technology.
I like this question to go to the CAO. Is that in our budget that we've been doing it for 3 years now? Do you have it in this year's budget or?
We would have budgeted no change. We would have budgeted in 18 based on our best guess.
Yep.
So this motion increase it by 2,000, I have no concerns.
Thank you.
Counselor Dontrell?
And my question was, it's just answered, it was a 3-year contract or whatever we had with them before, so, okay, great.
So we have a motion on the floor. Are there any other? I think
It was already
seconded, yeah. And that's okay. Any other
Yeah.
questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Contrary? Motion carried. Next.
On behalf of the Musée and for a lot of the Acadians around, I'd like to say thank you to the council for supporting that motion and for that funding. Thank you.
Yep. Next, we have CFA sponsorship. So we have a request for, there's 2 recommendations. We can support the request or we can decline the request. It's pretty simple. $900 a year is what they're asking for. What is the wish of council? 900. A motion by Counselor Boudreau. Do we have a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Counselor Digdon. Any questions or comments on that? Counselor Surratt.
You got me this time. Is this something that this will go to the CAO or deputy CAO? Is that something we generally do as sponsors? Stickers on cars? How's that?
Sorry.
Stickers on cars, I don't think we've done, I'm not sure the last time we did that, if ever, but we typically do marketing and sponsorship.
Okay.
So in some cases, you might put an ad in the paper saying, congratulations Hyundai on your new, building, and so you're sponsoring, in a way, you're sponsoring
Same thing.
that. But this would be a constant year-long acknowledgement that you've contributed towards this vehicle, right? So.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's nothing that says you can't. Yeah.
Counselor Dontrell.
so I take it that this campaign or that they've got other sponsors,
Yeah. I would assume. Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Councilor Dontrell, they do have other sponsors locked up. You can see there's 3 spots on that car on the design, and it's 3, ours would be there, and 2 other organizations would be there.
On the picture.
thank you.
On the picture, if you,
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor, right? I'm so tired at this point. Do we have a motion? Yes, oh, yes, you made it, thank you. You're supposed to keep me in line. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. All right. Last one, 11C, request for funding Rural Week Doctor Accommodations. So there is a request here from the Community Navigator for some support, financial support for some possible expenses. There's a couple of alternatives, $708.40 in expenses if they stay at the Argyle Lodge, but then alternatively, it may be less if the student chooses to stay at the Grand. So we're not 100% certain there. So are we willing to help them with this request? Questions on that? Counselor Digdon?
Not so much a question, I'm 110% behind it all. I just wondering if we get more requests like this and it keeps coming up the Argyle or Lodge, I wonder if they could kind of share it around a little bit, the lodging. And that, because there is other places in our municipality that may want to rent out a couple of rooms, but.
For sure, and I can even bring that up at our
Yeah,
next,
That's all,
Yep.
you know.
at our next meeting, certainly. Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Agenda topics. Is there anybody who has any agenda topics for our next meeting? Or notice of motion? Okay. Question period, nothing, no in camera, so we are adjourned. 27 minutes.